The Internal Revenue Service caused an uproar last year when they targeted Tea Party groups. Now it seems they're doing it again.
Yeah, the agency is coming up with rules that appear aimed at silencing conservative organizations before the next crucial elections.
Paul Strand explains in tonight's top story.
Quietly over Thanksgiving, the IRS announced new rules that critics say would allow the agency to continue its tough targeting of Tea Party and other conservative groups. Lawyer Cleta Mitchell represented some of these groups when the IRS held up their tax-exempt status for years.
And subjected all of these groups to extreme scrutiny, burdensome questions. One of my clients received 102 questions from the IRS.
But Mitchell says what the IRS was doing quietly from 2009 to 13, it's now doing openly to the kind of 501c4 groups like most of the Tea Parties.
Now what the IRS is doing, it hasn't stopped. And in fact, now the IRS in plain sight is trying to make permanent all of the awful things they were doing to Tea Party groups and now extend that to every 501c4 organization in America and to make it permanent. It's really quite dreadful. It is indeed targeted. They know who they're trying to shut up.
Why would they do this?
I think that the IRS is going to do everything it can to silence anybody in America who wants to talk about how elected officials voted on Obamacare. I actually believe that that is the fundamental reason for all of this effort.
Mitchell has filed a Freedom of Information request to find out if the White House, Treasury, and IRS have been colluding in these efforts to muzzle Tea Party and other conservative groups. But Treasury has been stalling weeks past the legal deadline in getting documents to Mitchell. Paul Strand, CBN News, the IRS.
Tea Party leaders testifying today before Congress about IRS targeting. Lawyers appeared on behalf of groups suing the IRS. They're charging the agency harassed dozens of Tea Party and conservative groups and held up their tax-exempt status. They laughed off White House claims no top IRS officials specifically targeted conservative groups.
This wasn't an equal opportunity discrimination. This was targeted discrimination coming from the Internal Revenue Service. And what I'd like to address now is that our view is that that determination came from the highest ranks of the Internal Revenue Service.
During today's testimony, lawyers also contradicted claims the FBI is actively investigating the situation. 13 government agents are supposedly looking into it, but those agents haven't contacted any Tea Party officials in the groups allegedly targeted.
Joining us now with more is Jordan Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice. The ACLJ represents 41 Tea Party groups in a federal suit against the IRS. Jordan, Cleta Mitchell said in that piece we just saw that she believes this is all about silencing people who have spoken out against Obamacare. Do you agree?
Absolutely. You know, the clients, we represent 41 different groups in this case against the IRS, the civil lawsuit. And it was Eric Holder who said there may be criminal violation here. What was clear in the hearing today at the Government Oversight and Reform Committee is that there's no question that these groups were targeted inappropriately.
Well, Jordan, it is pretty brazen that the IRS would put rules into place permanently that discriminate against a particular viewpoint. Why do you think that they're so open about what they're doing?
They think that they almost got away with it this time, that Lois Lerner was rewriting the rules as the targeting was occurring. We just found that out. You know, this was something that came up in the hearing, but I think people are just starting to figure out. The rules were not changed after the targeting. They weren't changed because of the targeting and then, oh, there was trouble, people couldn't interpret the law, which, by the way, the rules have been in place on this law for C-Force since 1959. So suddenly all this, 50 years later, they now can't interpret the rule that's been in place so long.
Well, what is your reaction when you hear President Obama say that there's not even a smidgen of corruption at the IRS?
You know, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, the IRS is still being investigated. There are 6 active investigations. There's a civil lawsuit we filed. Another attorney today represents a group that's filed. There's some other groups that have filed their own independent lawsuits. That's just the civil side. Then there's DOJ, FBI, a number of different congressional investigations, and yet it's getting to a point. And I think to close on this, that where members of Congress are starting to come together, even these very powerful committees, like the committee the hearing was in today, the Government Oversight and Reform Committee, which has investigation power over any kind of government action, basically, that they are now coming to the conclusion, as Congressman Trey Gowdy said today, that there needs to be a special prosecutor appointed, or else this investigation won't move forward. So I think that's the point we're at, is that if the Obama administration wants to get away from the criticism of Barbara Bosserman and DOJ attorneys who donated, appoint an independent, a special prosecutor. They have the power to do so, and let's get to the bottom of it, because Congress, I think, is about done in their ability to get new information.
Jordan Sekulow of the ACLJ, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mark.